Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for jumping onto this call. I thought it'd be great to get everyone together to have a bit of a chat around Nimble Approach and DXW and how we've been working together to deliver a transformation project for the Department for Education. So we do a quick round of introductions. So my name's Russ. I am the head of public sector delivery at Nimble Approach. So I provide delivery oversight, program management, and a direct point of contact between the customers and our delivery teams. Who would like to go next?
I'm happy to go next. Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm a senior developer at DXW, and I mostly work with .NET applications, but plenty of other things as well.
Rachel and I are trying not to be the chatty one, so I'm going to take that intro. I'll go next. I'm Nina. I'm a lead user researcher, but I also wear a service design hat as well at DXW. I predominantly working on internal systems at Department for Education, so we're speaking to lots of civil servants about how they go about their work and how digital systems can better support them.
And I am Rachel, who is also a lead user researcher, but at Nimble Approach, and I've been working at the Department of Education project now for a couple of years, mainly working on internal services too, and spending time chatting to civil servants about their jobs and what we could be producing to try and make them easier.
Lovely, thank you very much. So just a bit of background, I guess, about Nimble and DXW. We are both very similar sized technology services consultancies. We're both rapidly growing. We both operate in private and public sectors, so that's always very interesting. And I think it's safe to say that on both sides of the fence, our clients are mostly medium to large size enterprises in industries such as education, healthcare, retail, manufacturing. We cover quite a lot of or a broad range of customers between us. And I think it's very interesting how we've kind of come together on this particular program. So the partnership between DXW and Nimble began with what should have been a rather straightforward engagement. So DXW actually approached Nimble to increase their capacity and capability for a large-scale Department for Education program, which was focused on transforming services and capabilities that support schools across England and Wales. So over time, that initial engagement has actually evolved quite organically into what is now a united team of well over 50 professionals from both our organisations. So I think between us, we've naturally adopted a very one team approach, which has now sort of grown slightly outside of the DFE as well. And we regularly work side by side on new bids. So as well as our current engagements within the Department for Education, we also have work inside the Ministry of Justice and Department for Work and Pensions as well. So I think both organisations seem to come together and have fit together quite naturally, which is always quite interesting, certainly sort of our size of organisations. But I think specifically for this one, I'm kind of intrigued to understand what everyone's perspective and take is on how this particular DFE transformation program has come together and what both organizations have kind of brought to the program and how that has really benefited our customer. So I'd like to kind of ask the question to you guys about, how do you feel? Well, what unique strengths do you think that Nimble and DXW have brought to the table specifically for DFE? I see that. I'll start with how I see it, and then let's see how everyone else's perspective, because I think it was quite interesting is that we're all coming at this from very different roles. So obviously I'm coming at this from very much a delivery perspective, which could be a very different take to what everyone else has on this, especially with two user researchers on the call, which we will be very careful to make sure they don't talk too much about the users, because as that is very important, there is the rest of the program as well to discuss. But certainly from my perspective, as a delivery lead, I find it very interesting to see how there is sort of Nimble brings a lot of the technical capability along. We have a very large sort of like .NET developer capability that we bring into this. And that's kind of like how I see our strength plays into this. Whereas DXW, albeit has some fantastic development capability as well, there's definitely more of the UCD stuff that I think that DXW bring to this. So there is two, I think, almost contrasting sides the organizations bring together in terms of skill sets. So how do we, so things like, I don't know, community of practices, is that sort of something that happens in sort of the UCD world on this particular program?
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's like what you were talking about there, Ross, about the specialisms. I think the other thing about DXW having that technical specialism as well means that our UCD folks are not sort of treating that technical capability as completely alien to them, right? So we very much collaborate with the kind of technologists on the program as well. So whilst we do have our kind of UCD specialism, it's not kind of in isolation. I think that's really, really important to be aware of. And then your question about the communities of practice, there's quite a lot of work we do to share knowledge and expertise across the program. So each individual UCD discipline has a weekly community of practice meeting where you discuss challenges, approaches to things that you're learning, or kind of ideas that are kind of work in progress, where you might critique those things. And then we also have a fortnightly UCD kind of entire community of practice get together to talk more generally about kind of how UCD is kind of working within the program as well. But Rachel, maybe you can talk a bit more about kind of what happens in the research community of practice, and I can talk maybe a bit about the service design one.
Yeah, so in our weekly catch-up, it's sort of a space where we're bringing together people at DXW, people in Nimble, people in the client as well, who may be in each one of our specialisms. And it's really nice because it feels like a space where we're all coming together to share our different experiences as well, our different knowledge and things like that. So when it looks at that kind of partnership between us as companies, there's also the partnership and knowledge exchange in our disciplines as well, which we both have in these companies. So in those areas, we might bring, I don't know, the research area that we're looking at, and then we can get the perspective of different researchers to understand how might we be approaching this topic. And I think that's where it's really interesting and cool that we come from such different backgrounds at times too, because it means that you're looking at this problem from different perspectives, and maybe you've been on another project and you can bring forward some of those ideas of what worked over there as well. So having these joint spaces where we can tackle problems together, I think has been incredibly valuable.
That's, again, very much a kind of a blend of civil servant, Nimble, DXW. And I think what's interesting about how we're working is we're coming with those kind of experiences of working across the public and private sector and helping to kind of share that with the client around what good looks like in other places. But we're also like being sensible and flexible about the context we're in. You know, we're not coming with a formulaic approach to things and just say like, oh, well, this is how you do service design. You've got to be mindful about like what's the cultural context within the DFE and other clients. And I think that's a really kind of powerful thing about those communities of practice, that yes, you come with the expertise, but you also come with an open mind about, well, how do things work here, and how are we going to make a way of working that suits this client. I think having worked previously in a massive consulting firm, there tends to be quite a formulaic approach to like how things are done, and that's what I really enjoy about the partnership that we have with Nimble and with the client, that it's much more kind of flexible and organic about how we develop those ways of working.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a very interesting blend of skill sets that I think come together from both organizations, and it's like a deeper level of expertise, I think, is what it brings to me. So by combining those forces, we can both draw upon that broader range of experience, and it actually ends up creating a much more comprehensive knowledge base that either of us could have offered individually. So the customer is only going to benefit from that at the end of the day, which is, you know, absolutely great thing to bring to the DFE.
Yeah. I very much see that in the developer community of practice as well. it's a lot of what we talk about as developers can be things like the new technologies, what's currently good or bad in the tech world, security vulnerabilities that we might need to be watching out for, and our approaches, and trying to make sure that our approaches to specific problems are both the best ones they can be, but also at least somewhat aligned with each other. So whenever someone moves from one team to another, or whenever we hand our products back over to the client, it's in the way that people expect it to be. But especially with the .NET capability that Nimble brings to the table, for me, that's a whole nother communication channel of what's going on in the .NET world. And that's information and those things that I get from my Nimble colleagues, I can then go and broadcast back over to DXW and vice versa.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if I recall correctly, when we first sort of came on here, there was a whole series of potentially technical problems that I think the DfE were experiencing, and I think it's been a real combined effort to sort of do things like reduce the technical debt that was on this particular program, standardizing the technology stack. That took everyone was involved in trying to work out what that should look like and how to make it work the most effectively, not only effectively but cost effectively for the DfE as well. Improving accessibility, obviously that was always high on everyone's levels as well. And obviously the one thing I found with this is the response times when it comes to actually implementing sort of changes due to policy shifts. That one's always an interesting one, I think, probably from the UCD side as well as a technical side, actually understanding what the impact of those changes really mean to the users and the stakeholders, and then being able to turn that into something that actually gives them a capability that is usable and efficient and effective and getting out the door quickly. And it does take an awful lot of like combined effort between people, let alone, the way I usually see it is it doesn't ever really, to me, feel like there is DfE, DXW and Nimble in a team. Those boundaries don't necessarily feel like they exist. It's which I have found to be quite a rare thing from past experience. So I think that's absolutely great. I really do. Just trying to think. We need to dig a little bit further down into, I think, some of the actual things that I think we're doing as well. So, is there any wins, Rach, from sort of like a user research perspective? Is there anything you'd like to sort of say, actually, this is something that we've done and actually stands out as something we should be talking about right now about this partnership, and it has obviously helped DfE in the long run?
I don't feel like I can take the full credit for this because I think this was led by Nina to start off with. But one of the things I think has been so interesting as a resource is the user needs database. We work across lots of different products, but we have the same users across those products too. And so there are shared user needs across them. And what we're finding was that sometimes we're working on the same sort of areas, but we didn't quite know it. And we're finding the same needs, but they weren't being documented in one place. And we had research happening and it was sort of scattered across different areas, the documentation and stuff like that. So I feel like I should be giving the credit to Nina for leading this piece of work as well. But in our community of practice, then we started developing and then iterating this user needs database to start bringing together that information in one place. And it's been great to see how it started off with a few columns and it's grown over time to be more valuable, not just for us, but then also designers have been putting in their design patterns about how they've been meeting needs as well. So it can be replicated on other products. It's a way that then we can track progress as to how those needs are coming along for each product as well. So I think it's been a really big piece of work, but it's been so nice to see over the past year or so since it's been up and running, how it's grown and become really valuable across the program of work too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess that's something that hasn't been highlighted yet. We keep referring to this as a program because it is, because underneath that program banner, there is sort of 6, 7 individual projects that are running to either help create a capability or a product or a service. So this piece of work is a lot bigger, I think, than people actually tend to realize. So having the ability to do just that, having a central resource or a central source of the truth for anything, I think is massively key. But it's great because Nimble and DXW both have the same approach to this. So I don't think there's ever been necessarily any sort of arguments or falling out over having this joined up experience, that we look at this thing as an end-to-end thing rather than siloing everything off and trying to block out the rest of the world from it, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think like really kind of a fundamental factor in that being successful is how comfortable everybody is working in the open. So like the user needs database, which I am not going to take full credit for at all. Like that was very much a partnership effort. Couldn't have done it without you, Rachel. But that kind of, that willingness to say, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm finding, here's how it's influencing what we're doing. That happens at a team level and at a program level. And I was thinking about some of that stuff you were talking about, Russ, with like, okay, there's a policy change, like how are we going to get that out there quickly? Working in the open was really, really fundamental to that. What are we learning? How does that influence design? Can we involve the technologists on the team to kind of understand what's feasible? And so everybody's kind of involved in the thinking about how you solve that problem, rather than it getting thrown over the fence. Like, we've done the research, now the design's going to think about it. Now that gets thrown to the technologists on the team. And I think that's really important. But like you said, Rachel, like, it happens on a program level as well, like being curious and interested in what each other are doing. We have those sprint cycles where we have the show and tells, where we kind of see what each other are doing and the problems that we're solving. And there's always trying to find kind of commonalities as well, and where do these things connect. Yeah.
And to expand on the working in the open, this is something that I found quite remarkable about 3 different organizations working together as though they were one, as you were saying earlier, Russ. Being so open with each other about what we're up to, and also the challenges that we're facing, means that it's really, really easy to ask each other for help and for guidance and for second opinions. And that happens outside of the communities of practice. That's just continual bouncing around. It's brilliant that people feel so safe to be able to say, I'm stuck with a thing, please help me, before they've been stuck with a thing for a long time.
It's very true, and actually you can kind of, so as well as the interaction between the 3 organizations, you can start to see how that really comes into effect when you look at actually the communities of practice internally. So I love the way that sort of UCD and the tech communities work so closely together. I've certainly seen other areas before where either tech people want to go, developers want to go off and develop, UCD people want to go off and make sure it's the right thing for the user, and actually trying to get that synergy between the two can be extremely difficult at times. But seeing how the user research turns into prototype iteration, that turns into the actual development of this capability, just seems like such a smooth process. And I don't think it would be as smooth if either everyone hated each other or these organizations didn't get on as well as they did, to be honest, because I think we're all aware that can cause problems when there is differing opinions, or you can't sit down and have a mature conversation around actually what needs to happen next. So I love that. I genuinely love that about this particular customer, and that feel that it's got in there. No one seems like they've been siloed or pigeonholed for any particular reason. If only all public sector collaborations could be the same.
I do think there's always been that in our program. Like, it's this cross-disciplinary, everybody's aiming for something similar, which I think brings it all together so well. So been very fortunate to work with both Sarah and Nina in projects. And it's like, you've got a bit of research that you want to feed into some design work. Everyone will jump on a call and be like, okay, here's how we can action this from a design perspective. And then design, we start proposing something, and a developer will be there saying, yeah, but, or yes, and we could be doing this. This is more feasible. Like, let's be incorporating this into the design. And I think having that sort of collaborative approach to what we're doing means that you can iterate on things faster, because there's not, I am a researcher, I'm a designer, I'm a developer. It's like, no, we're a team and we want to produce something together, which has always been really strong, I feel like, in this partnership.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we sorry, go on.
Oh, no. Okay. Go for it, Nina.
I was just going to say, like, I think we're kind of more than the sum of our capabilities. So, you know, officially this is a capability contract that we're working on together. But I think part of that kind of collaborative way of working comes from being outcome driven, like naturally as a group of people. And that's kind of a really like motivating thing that keeps the teams engaged in each other's work.
And something I absolutely love the multidisciplinary sort of cross collaboration stuff that we do day to day on the project, because I've learned so much about design and user research and other things, and being able to get a developer perspective in early on in the process means that things can be considered that wouldn't necessarily be considered otherwise. Some things are very easy to implement that might not seem to be. And sometimes something that seems very easy to implement is very hard, but that's not so often. But again, being able to attend user research sessions as a developer, that is phenomenal. That means that I get to be properly close to the people that are using the hard work that I'm putting out, and I can ditch many of the assumptions that I might have if I were just at the end of a long chain of user research, threw it over to the wall to design, they threw it over the wall to dev, we did a thing, we threw it over the wall to test. We don't do that. But it's that collaborativeness and that being able to understand each other's roles and priorities a bit more as well, that helps.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So obviously being a delivery lead, you kind of get disinvited from a lot of things, because either they just see you as being there to kind of be a bit more of a pain, or to push the timeline rather than actually getting involved with things. So I actually genuinely love getting involved in the user research sessions. I think it's absolutely fantastic to really see or to remember why we're doing this and the reasoning behind it, and the fact it's for the right reasons. We're not building something rapidly at pace because someone's told us we need to do so at a higher level. We're actually building the thing that our users want and need. And that for me is absolutely fantastic to see. It really is. So that for me would be something key that I would take away from this kind of collaboration is, as I think, as Nina put it a minute ago, you know, the sum is greater than its parts. 100%. I absolutely love that. I love looking at the diversity of different skill sets that we've brought together, and then being able to work so closely together that I can get involved in areas that I probably wouldn't naturally be involved in as a delivery lead. I think that's something I definitely would try and carry forward into future projects outside of this as well.
Yeah, for me, one of the things that I think I've learned and very much appreciate is how much you can learn from other companies as well and other people you're partnering with, because it's that collaborative spirit when you're working together and you're chatting about things that you've done. If you think of yourself as like going into that environment, not as just an expert in your area, but to be in a learning environment too, where you can find out new methods. So in research, we can find out new methods, we can find out new ways of engaging with people, new ways of doing analysis, how are we presenting our findings. Working with in this environment, I've learned so much from the people who I've been on these projects with and collaborating with. I think that's a real strength of having multiple different companies involved in a project too.
Yeah. And seeing the tools that other companies are using and other people are using, that kind of exposure to things you don't really get so much if you're a company, or just a company working alone, because everyone's probably using the same tool. it's really, really awesome.
How about you, Nina? Anything specific you feel like you'd be taking away from this collaboration?
It sounds a bit corny, but actual real friends.
That is very, very sweet.
Like, this is the thing, like the people feel like they are, like, there's no separation, like we've talked about a lot, you know, like I've become friends with people from Nimble, I've become friends with civil servants because of this, like, really, like, open and blended way of working. Like, I have hung out with people from Nimble and the civil servants on our project outside of work, right? So I think it's not to be sniffed at, right? Because that just sort of demonstrates the strength of the working relationship, that you feel like you can become friends with those people.
I absolutely 100% agree. I've got so many more gaming partners on Steam and Discord. And places I can go stay, hopefully, if I ever go up to Sheffield or to Norwich, or people I would never have met otherwise. Because, of course, we spend our time at work working, but there's more to bonding as a team than just what you're working on. I think it's inevitable that a group of people that are working so closely together and that do feel so safe in each other's company can do things like become friends outside of work.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing when a lot of this work's happening remotely as well, right? That those connections are able to form. Like, I've heard rumor that the research community has turned into a gardening club, and that's like the common ground that people have got in that community. But those things are really important because, you know, when you're looking at someone through a screen most of the time, it can be hard to kind of humanize people and just see them as their capability. Oh, I'm going to talk to the researcher now, or I'm going to talk to the service designer now. Like, those things are really, really important for making the team kind of gel and work well together and support each other.
No, I
Yeah,
completely.
and also learning how to keep our gardens like beautiful as well. Knowledge exchange isn't just about the project; it's about gardening too in our research community.
I might need to join your research community. My plants keep dying.
We've got experts there now.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. I love it. I love it. I don't have that problem. I just don't have plants. It's much easier.
Lego ones work. They don't die on you.
Oh, no, you see, that I can do. That I could do. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. Although I'd probably do something stupid and try and water them anyways. But, you know, it's... Okay, so obviously there's lots of things there that we'd be looking at what we would take away from this collaboration as well, and I think we've kind of mentioned a few things around how we feel that DFE have actually benefited from this as well. So going back over some of the things that we covered earlier, so we've spoken about the reduced technical debt, increased efficiency, we've standardized technology stack, we've improved accessibility, responsiveness to policy shifts. I think we've undoubtedly proven that this has been very user-centered. We've undoubtedly shown that this has been user-centered in terms of our delivery approach, making sure that we're building the right thing for the DFE users. And yeah, I think it is, to me, has been one of the most interesting deployments I've been on, and the customer consistently seems to be telling us how fantastic it feels and how their users are always feel like they're being taken on a journey with us, which I think is absolutely incredible, to be fair. And I really don't think that could have happened. We wouldn't have had this sort of like real world impact for the Department of Education, I don't think, unless these two organizations had come together and managed to blend together as efficiently as we had, to be completely honest.
I think we're also doing a lot to set them up for the future as well. So if I think about like the project that I first joined and was working on with Rachel, we were getting rid of a piece of legacy technology that the project had been going for quite a number of years, and other suppliers had tried to kind of remove this piece of legacy technology and struggled. And then when we kind of came along and finally achieved it, there was a palpable sense of like, wow, we've just like unlocked our future. It's meant that we can do lots of stuff that we weren't able to do before to make the department kind of operate more effectively and efficiently, and just thinking about some of the kind of technology things that are on the horizon as well, like getting off that legacy tech was really, really fundamental to that. But, you know, at the same time, we didn't get a lot of time to sit around and pat ourselves on the back and go, yay, we did it, we got off this legacy tech, because there was a policy shift that came along like literally 2 weeks later, and we were straight into that. So I think that's kind of important as well. Like, we don't always take the time to kind of acknowledge those successes, and it's nice to kind of have this conversation and reflect on those things as well, because it was a really big deal getting off that legacy technology and setting that bit of the organization up for what their future looks like as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really do. Yeah. So I mean, even if you take a step back from that a little bit, and we say that actually there is, we haven't taken the time to sort of celebrate that, because I think there is such a shared commitment to honesty and integrity between our organizations to ensure that public service values and decisions are aligned with what DfE's needs really are. We're so busy actually looking at that and making sure that we're maximizing those benefits for the users that we don't even stop and actually take stock and say, yeah, that was a great job, well done. We've got our heads down focused on, well, there's the next problem coming on there, let's go and solve that instead, which I think is well, I can't figure out if that's phenomenal or a bit silly, to be honest, but well, one way or another it seems to work very well for everybody. So
still, I do quite like our program-wide meetings where we do get to shout out, you know, well done to X team for this thing, well done to this effort that's been phenomenal ongoing. I do feel like we do get a reasonable amount, or a lot even, of positive feedback direct from our client in quite a timely manner as well, and that's great. It does also help that so many people from the client work alongside us in our teams.
yes, I completely agree. Yeah.
I think that's what I just picked up on what you said, Sarah, which is like this team has done well. It's not like this company, this, you know, it's like we are a team and we share successes as a team, no matter what that blend looks like, which is really important too, to keep that idea of sort of we're one team, we're aiming for the same outcome as well.
Absolutely. I do have to keep reminding myself who's who sometimes. Who's Nimble, who's DXW, who's DfE, because it feels like a team of humans. It's lovely.
There's another thing I wanted to maybe just put a little spotlight on that Rachel's been working on, which is thinking about how do we measure the effects of what we're doing. So there's a piece of work that started last summer, thinking about like how do we like assess the impact of the digital products and services that we're designing and building. And I think there were some fairly kind of generic measures in place that weren't really telling a particularly like rich story of the real world impact we're having. Like, yes, we were getting anecdotal feedback, and whenever we speak to users, they're always very complimentary about the things that we've designed and built. But having those kind of the numbers as well, and kind of how do those ladder up to tell leadership in DfE about the impact that we're having is a really important piece of work that's going on at the moment as well.
Okay. Right. Well, for me, I think there's just a couple of key things I just wanted to highlight, just to see if we're all on the same page here, and the things that I think that made this collaboration successful. So a unified one team culture, ongoing knowledge sharing, adaptability through a diverse skill set, which both organizations have brought to DfE. That for me obviously leads to a deeper expertise pool, which I think is so important. Rapid response, I think, is something that we haven't really covered. So the fact that actually there's two organizations working together here means that if there is a need to fill a particular role, or there's a particular problem that's come along, or there's something that has happened that we need to react to quickly, actually both organizations can be brought to bear to bring in the right people with the right skills to fix those problems in a very, very short space of time, which is something that not everybody gets to be able to do as well. And the last thing for me was that innovation through diversity. So the blend of different organizational cultures and approaches, I think, has created an environment where innovation just thrives. And teams benefit from that, from diverse perspectives and experiences, and it just leads to more effective and creative solutions that I think ultimately do benefit DFE, and most importantly, all of DFE's users in the long run. So I guess one other thing that we haven't really spoken about, well, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but it'd be quite interesting to talk about what kind of things do Nimble and DXW do that kind of brings us closer together. What kind of advice, I guess, could we talk about in terms of other organizations maybe wanting to work together, or even with us? So for me, something that springs to mind straight away is ensuring that there is open, honest communication between both organizations. That for me is super important. But what other things can we think of that would avoid sort of those challenges of integrating two companies together?
Don't think about the company that you work for, think about the outcome that you're trying to get. So like, you're a team. I think that's what you need to center your like working practices around. Is I know that I'm part of, I work at Nimble, but the project I'm working on is not just Nimble, it's a whole team that's working together. So I think you really need that mindset when you're going into the project, that you're working towards an outcome, as Nina said earlier.
I think there's like, alongside that, being kind of open and flexible about how things are done. You know, there's not one kind of right answer to solving challenges and problems that come up. And so, you know, thinking about and listening to and seeing how other people do things and approach things, and forging a way ahead that makes sense for everybody, I think is really important as well. Like, don't come with your sort of formulate, this is how we do stuff here, and I'm going to impose that on you. I think that kind of collaboration is really about being flexible and open in how you're working as well.
Yeah. But equally, don't forget that you are part of an organization outside of your team. If you've got, you know, if there's things come up in your project and you're looking for help, you can look for help from your team. You can look for help from everyone else that's working on the program. But you can also look for help from your own company, and really bring together that expertise from people both on the project and off the project as well.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's a really good point. I think people maybe sometimes forget that it's not just the capability of the people that are working on the program, but we have two entire companies behind the program as well, and we can go and get that knowledge and those skills and bring it in as and when needed, which is quite a powerful thing to do. And again, it just benefits DFE as a whole. So I think to have all of those people available as and when needed. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's coming to kind of a bit of a natural close there. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking your time to jump on this call and then talk through it all. I look forward to continue to working with you for the future with DFE and potentially some other projects going forward.
Yeah. Cheers, everyone. Lovely chatting.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.